Hola, buenos días. Es mañana hermosa.
Hey, yeah. When I was a kid, I had a prehistoric playset. And in this prehistoric playset, there was, oh, hello. Hey, yeah, life is good. There was a Tyrannosaurus Rex. Hey. And it was the 1970s. Talking to people I know here, yeah. It was the 1970s, so of course, the prehistoric playset Tyrannosaurus Rex had a vertical spine. It stood upright. It held its spine like a human, and it dragged its tail on the ground. And of course, it was the early 1970s, so by that time, paleontologists already knew that Tyrannosaurus didn't walk upright. But the general public didn't, so there was a lot of wiggle room there. Absolutely. And so, the manufacturers of these toys were able to get away with presenting Tyrannosauruses as upright bipeds who drag their tails on the ground. By the late 1970s, however, it was fairly well understood that a Tyrannosaurus is not a giant lizard dragging its tail on the ground. It's more like a giant featherless ostrich with a really long tail as a counterweight to help keep it on track as it chased down its prey. Dinosaurs were not dumb lizards. They were giant birds with teeth. And that came to be understood by the late 70s. I was still a kid in the late 70s, so yeah. We had, by the 80s, figured out that the best analog for a Tyrannosaurus Rex was not a giant iguana, but a giant chicken with teeth. A giant chicken with teeth. This is how far science has moved in 40 years. From thinking of the Tyrannosaurus as a giant iguana to thinking of it as a giant chicken. And yet, young Earth creationism has not moved forward a bit since that time, when it was commonly assumed that a Tyrannosaurus was in fact a giant iguana. Yeah. Creationists are stuck on a very outdated version of Tyrannosaurus Rex, much for the same reason that they're stuck on an outdated version of everything scientific, because they're not interested in learning new things. Because they're authoritarians who believe that what matters isn't facts and evidence, but authority figures. And this is why young Earthers invariably try to appeal to what Charles Darwin said, rather than appealing to what modern science has figured out in the 130 some odd years since Darwin died. Because, yeah, he's been dead for over 130 years. He is no longer the cutting edge of scientific research. And just as the understanding of Tyrannosaur as a giant iguana has been superseded by the understanding that Tyrannosaurus is, in fact, a giant chicken with teeth, so too, we have moved past Darwin into the modern world. It's no longer the 1860s. It's the 2020s. We've moved on since then. And so it should. After all, you don't go to work in a horse and buggy, and you don't issue troops with muskets. So why should your science be stuck in the 1860s?
If you look, you can see the St. Mary's Challenger coming out below the spire of St. Mary's Church, up there. The St. Mary's Challenger is a barge, a cement barge that is pushed and pulled by a tug that locks into a slot in the back of the barge, and the tug is backing the barge out. Yes, that's the St. Mary's Challenger for you, right there. Amazing bit of seamanship on the part of the tug crew. Absolutely.
But I wanted to talk a little more about the authoritarianism in young Earth creationism and the big problem that they have with new information and with learning new things. Because young Earthers mistakenly believe that science should work like a religion, where the older your authority figure, the more valid it becomes. And that's why they like to dump on Charles Darwin. Because to them, he is the first authority figure in evolution and science. And that's literally how young Earthers see it. Darwin is the authority figure. Therefore, if you can knock down Darwin, you can knock down all of science, all of scientific progress, all of logic, all of reason, all of sanity. It all goes straight down the toilet if you can knock down Charles Darwin. Little do they know that that's just not how it works.
Because science is not authoritarian, it is anti-authoritarian. In science, it's not about having the oldest authority figures, it's about having the newest information. And the whole point of authority figures is to be somebody you can knock off their pedestal and mock and ridicule for being old, outdated, and a complete fuddy-duddy. Because that is how science works. We don't have authority figures. We have facts, we have evidence, and we have the act of learning new things. So when young Earthers talk about Darwin as though he was an authority figure, they're making the mistake of assuming that we function like them. Of course, it doesn't help that Darwin had a beard like a biblical patriarch, because this causes them to think, oh, he has a beard, so does Moses. So therefore, Darwin must be a patriarch of science. Yes, let's knock him down. That's not how science works. Science runs on new evidence. As I said, at one time we thought Tyrannosaurus was a giant iguana. Now we know that Tyrannosaurus was a giant chicken with teeth. And that's how science works. Not on preserving and cherishing outdated ideas, but on embracing new ideas. Because science is about progress. Science is about learning new things and discovering more, because science is not a religion. Science is a tool for learning new things. That's how science works.